Nandito na nga, nandito na nga, nandito na nga.
Hello guys and welcome to our week 5 lesson with regards to using system functions and key statements in SQL. For this lecture, we are going to use the following table samples. First are SQL functions or SQL system functions. The first group of functions are called the date and time function. For SQL Server, we have the DateAdd function, which produces a date by adding a specified number to a specified part of a date. The format for the DateAdd function is DateAdd, open close parenthesis, the date part, the number, and date field. The date part would be either DD, MM, or YY, which pertains to the day, month, year. Number would be the number that you want to add to the date part. And the date field would be the date field or column that you want to add to. For example, to add 2 days to the order date of every product name in table order, we would type the following code. Okay, so select product name, add 2 days to order date is equals to. Could also change this one into like this. Basically, it's an alias. We just presented it in a different format. So upon running our code, okay, so we have added 2 days to the order date. Next, you can also subtract 2 days from the order date of every product name in table order by adding a -2 or -2 instead of a +2 as shown in the following query. So instead of adding +2, we use -2. Okay, so please check the syntax. Okay, update the syntax for this one. Run the code. Okay, this -2. On the side of my SQL, we do not have the date add function, but we have a date underscore add function, which adds specified time interval to a date. So it accepts three parameters. The first one is the date column or date value, followed by the keyword interval, followed by the expression or the number of interval you want to add in terms of integer or whole number, followed by the type, which can be any of the following from microsecond up to a year. Okay, so we have an example here. So for example, we want to add 45 days to the order date to find the payment date. So we have an example data under our MySQL. So these are the answer. So we added 45 days to the column order date. So that would be the result. Okay, if you want to check the original value of order date, let's add so that you could see. This is the original value. So we added 45 days. This will be the end result. Next is the date diff function, which returns the difference between two parts of a date. The format for the date diff function is date diff. So date part, which could either be DD, MM, or YY. We have date field 1 or date column 1 and then date column 2. Uh, these are the two date fields that you want to find the difference between them. So for example, to find the number of months between two fields, birthday and school date of every person in table date, we would type select names, months between birth date and school date, so date, diff, birth date, and school date from table date. So we could extract the difference between the two dates. For MySQL, we have a different syntax. So we also have the date diff function. However, we only accept two parameters, date column 1 and date column 2, and it returns the difference in the number of days. Okay. So for example, you can see here, under the date, under the first date, you return the date that you want to be subtracted from. And on the second date, you set the date or the value that you want to extract. So November 30 minus November 29 is 1 day. So let us try to execute this in our sample. So right now we only have one particular column, date. So what we could do is to actually make use of a function and compare it to the date today. Okay, so first is for my SQL. So we will place here the system function current, which returns the current date. And for the second field value, we want to compare the value of birth date. So let us check from table name. Okay. So we compare birth date to the current day, date today. Okay. Okay. So this is the difference in the number of days. So if you want to compare, you could actually show also the values of the dates. Okay. So these are the number of days. You can divide this one by 365 days to get the number of year. Let's try. Okay. So that is how you would do date diff in MySQL. How about MS SQL? So in SQL Server, what we do is instead of using a so we have table name. So we compare the birth date with get date. So it's basically the same as cur date, but get date is a system function used in MS SQL to return the current date. So let us try to run. So we'll get the number of months. Okay, that is the number of months. So let's, because we are getting a negative value, let us switch the two columns, and then let's change this to year, and let us also return the values of our get date and birth date. Okay, so this is the tentative age, and we have the birth date and the value of the current date today. Next is date sub function. So date sub function is only for MySQL. So the date sub function subtracts a specified time interval from a date. For example, we have an orders table here, and this is the value we want to subtract 5 days from order date. So let us try to do that. Again, date sub accepts the date column followed by keyword interval followed by expression, which is an integer number, positive or negative, and we have the type. So the type could be month, day, year. Okay. Seconds, hours. Go to MySQL. Order date. So we will subtract 5 days from order date. Let's try. Reduce the subtracted date. If you want to show the original date, which you could compare if it's indeed 5 days different. So yes, they are different in up to 5 days. Okay. Next, for SQL Server, we have date part function, which returns a specified part of the date requested. The format is date part followed by the column or the date value. So the date part could either be day, month, year. We could actually even use hours, minutes, seconds if we want to. For example, to find year from the birth date of a person in table date, we would find select name, years is equal to date part, YY birth date from table date. So let us try to do that in our SQL Server. I'll use our table order. Okay. So we have, or better yet, table names. Name. So we have name and then birth date and then year. So we will get the year part of our column. So 1990, 96,000. If you want to compare, just to double check. Okay. Getting the only the year. Okay. How about for MySQL? The counterpart of date part for MySQL is extract function. So it is used to return a single part of a date time such as year, month, day, hour, minute, etc. etc. So we use the extract. Okay. MySQL. So we use extract and then unit. So for example, year followed by from birth date. Okay, let's try if this one will work. Okay, years did not work properly. So let us check. Track unit year from birth date. Only. Okay, so just have the problem with our alias. So 1990, 96, and 2010. So we also have another example here. So this will extract the year, the month, the date of the uh, data from table order. Let's try. We use extract year, month, day from order date. Okay. Here, check the manual from table order. Okay. We had an excess of comma. Okay. Let us run our example. Okay. So we got the year, month, and the day. Okay. Next. SQL Server has the year, month, and day function, which extracts the particular value that is requested from a specified column or date field. So for example, we have here month, birth date. Okay. We have here day, birth date, and we also have year, school date in order for us to get the particular date. Now, if we are to use it, it will look like this. Meaning year, birth date, year, month, day. Okay. This under MS SQL or SQL Server. Okay. Log month, day, year. Okay. We'll check for a possible syntax error. Okay, we just added alias in order for us to have a clear representation in our output. So you can see year, month, and day. Okay. Next, for SQL Server, in order to for us to return the current server or system date and time, we use the get date, which I showed earlier. Okay. You can also return the UTC date or the current system date and time in the universal time coordinate format. Useful for getting date and time location, date and time of other location. Usually, if you are to use this UTC date and time format, you can add and get the particular date and time of a particular location just by getting the time zone of a particular location. Like, let's say, for example, in the Philippines, we use +8 hours. And then there are other countries that are using +6, -6. Okay. In order for you to get the time of that particular location, you use UTC date and then you add the particular time zone that they are in. So let us try to run the example. So get date and then get UTC. Okay, just try to run. Okay, notice 12:13. This is 14:13. Okay, so we are in a different time zone from this particular time. So our current time today is so +8, so 8:13 p.m. Next, for MySQL, we have a bunch of options that we could use. We have the now, which returns the current date and time. Current date returns current date. Current time, UTC date, current UTC date, and UTC underscore time, which returns current UTC time. Okay. So let's try to use this one. UTC date, UTC time. Okay. Okay. So these are the results. Okay. The following, this is for, eh, okay. This is for MySQL. So the following SQL creates an orders table with a datetime column. Notice that the datetime column under the default value we set now. Okay, so every time a new record is created, order date will have a default value of the current date and time. Okay. So for example, when we insert a record only using the product name column, we will output or return an order date based on when that particular data was inserted. Okay, so you could check that one out. You want to see code, right? Okay, so let us run. We create a table orders. Okay, next we insert data. Okay, order ID, order ID. Okay, and then we select the table. So automatically, the current system date and time will be inserted under order date. Next, inserting the current date and time. So for SQL Server, we could actually insert current date and time using the get date for MySQL using the current date. In this example, we use get date plus 5 years, okay, to insert the particular value. And then in this instance, we use DateAdd and then current date interval 5 years to insert the same value for MySQL. Okay, so this is just a basic example if you want to insert that particular data. So let's try to use this one. So let's modify it. Insert into, let's say, table name. So we need to, okay, do not forget under MySQL, you need to define the particular table. Okay, let's say 4. Let's try. insert the columns. So we have name. We also have birthday. Name, birthday. Okay. So we just adjusted the syntax. There was an error. So date add current date, comma, interval 5 years. So let us execute. Then let us check table. You have the data here plus 5 years. Next, we also have row level functions. So it operates on values in single rows, one row at a time. Row level function can be used to perform an arithmetic operation on a column. The first row level function is the round function, which rounds numbers to a specified number of decimal places. So the syntax is round, numeric value, number of decimal places, which is optional. For example, in the employee table, if you wanted to divide every person's wage by 3 or a third of the wage, you would type wage divided by 3. Then to round this, you could use round wage divided by 3 and include the precision number of decimal places after the comma. So for example, okay, we have the data here. So first, I'll create a table wherein we could see this example. Okay, so let's try using our round function for SQL Server. So we made a column called salary under our table name. So we have name, we have salary, and okay, we have round salary divided by 3, like 2 decimal places. Table name. Okay, so this is one third of our salary. That's for SQL Server. And for my SQL, so for my SQL is we select in round and then the particular value. Let's see different. Okay, we try to use only round. Okay, check again from. Okay, guys. Apparently, we're having some issues with regards to the alias use. So some of the examples that I have here in our lecture were working or is working for PHP My Admin, but apparently our online editor has some issues with some symbols. But anyway, I added a cast here in order for us to convert our salary divided by 3 into decimal with up to two decimal places. And then afterwards, we use round to convert our answer into a number with up to two decimal places. So as you can see here. Okay, next. For round, the rule is if the nearest decimal place is to be rounded is 5 and up, we round up. If it is 4 or less, we round down. Uses the round half up rule. A value with a fractional part of zero point 0.5 or greater is rounded up to the next integer if positive or down to the next integer if negative. In other words, it is rounded away from 0. A value with fractional part less than zero point 0.5 is rounded down to the next integer if positive or up to the next integer if negative. So up to the nearest decimal place to be rounded should, for example, in these instances, so we have salary of 0.125, we use round up to the nearest decimal place. Okay, what will happen is that the answer will be 1200.13. If the answer here is 4, okay, the rounded value will be 1200.12. Okay, so always remember that round to the nearest decimal place is if the next number after the nearest decimal place is 5 and up, we round up. If it is 4 or less, we round down. The syntax for round is the same for SQL Server and MySQL. We accept the value or the column together with the number of decimal places. However, there are instances like that you have seen here wherein our editor has some issues with regards to accepting that particular value. So if in case that happens, you could try converting it first using cast or cased and then using the round function. Okay. So if we remove cast here, let's see if we could perform the operation. Okay. So right now we can perform the operation. Okay. So round salary divided by 3 up to 2 decimal places. We want, we can change it into a different alias, rounded num. Okay. Next, we also have other numeric functions. We have ceiling, floor, square root, absolute value, and square. So ceiling returns the next larger integer value when a number contains decimal places. If it does not have decimal places, it retains the number. We have floor, which returns the next lower integer value when a number contains decimal places. If it does not have any decimal places, it returns the value. Okay. Square root returns the square root of positive numbers. Absolute returns the absolute value of any numeric value. And square returns a number squared. Remember, when using floor, if it has a value in its decimal place, no matter how small or big, as long as it is not 0, round up. When using floor, we round down as long as it has a decimal place and it is not 0. Okay, so we have an example here. So for this sample, we will try using again our table name and salary column. Salary, we have a floor salary. Okay, from table name. This is my SQL. Okay, okay. So let's display the original value. Okay, we do not have any decimal place, so let's try to update it. Okay, so I have updated our columns, first three columns. So notice they have decimal place, and then the other three does not have. So according to our rule, as long as it has a decimal place, as long as it's not zero, for ceiling we round up, for floor we round down. So notice we have here 1201, here 1, 12, then 501, round down, 10, 5, 0.01, ceiling, floor, and then if it doesn't have any decimal place, it retains that particular number. So let's try this for SQL Server. Okay, so same rule. It has round up, if none, okay, round down. It has round up, round down for floor, round up, ceiling, round down for floor. Okay, next. For square, square root, and absolute, just apply the numeric field to get the desired value. Remember that absolute returns unsigned numeric value, meaning if it's negative 25 or plus 25, it will just return 25 minus the symbol. So this is our sample. Okay. If we select absolute value for bonus, it will become 24 will become 4, 8, 12, stay the same. For SQL Server, square. So my SQL doesn't have a square function. So for square, multiply by self, salary, 2 by 2, 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 9 by 9 is 81, 49, 81. Square root, both for SQL Server and MySQL. So we have the square. Okay, let's try. So we have absolute, um, square, and square root. SQL Server. Okay, salary, and then absolute, square. Okay, okay, so this is the answer. For my SQL, there's no square function, so we remove this. Where is your answer? Okay, is null function without space, only for SQL Server, is used to handle the null issue. SQL Server provides a row level function is null, which returns a value if a table value is null. So the syntax is null, column, or value. And then what will be the replacement value if that column or value is null. This null function says that if the expression or column value is not null, return the value. But if the value is null, return the value of if null. Note that the value of if null must be compatible with the given data type. So for example, let's try to do this one. If you want to do a declaration inside our SQL, you could declare your variables using the syntax declare followed by at symbol in order for it to symbolize that that is a variable followed by the variable name. Take note, variables should start with letters, okay, followed by the data type. And then if you have another variable, you separate it by comma. So in SQL, if you are to set a value to a given variable, use the keyword set followed by the variable name, followed by the equal sign, followed by the value. So in here we have A is equals to null and B is equals to 2. So we have the statement here, select is null if at A is null, you treat this value as 0. If at B is null, you treat B's value as 0. So as A plus B is equals to. So let's try this one will work in our online compiler. Okay, so the answer is 2. So notice if we will not use is null here, what will happen? The return value is null. Okay, we cannot return that particular value because null plus 2 is null. Okay, next. MySQL doesn't have the equivalent use of is null. Okay, but if we want to perform the same operation, we use if null. Okay, if null basically is the same. If null, okay, value of the column, comma, what will be the replacement value? So let's correct this one. Okay, so let's try. So in this statement, select if null, null, it will become 0 because null is null. And if null is, if 3 is null, which is not, it will become 0. So what will be the answer here? Because we cannot perform same operation declaration of variables in MySQL. Okay, the answer will be 3. Oh, what if we will not use if not? So null plus 3. Answer is null. Okay, MySQL has an is null function. However, it has a different use. So the MySQL is null function tests whether an expression is null. So how do we use it? In this example, we use select is null, then give the value or the column. If the value or the column is null, it will return 1. If the value is not null, it will return, the value is null, it will return true or 1. If the value is not null, it will return false or 0. So as you notice here, it has the value. So false is null and then blank space. So false is null, null, of course, that's true is null 28. Of course, that's false. So let's try to use is null table name. So let's try name. So let's check if we have a null value. So none. So let's try to update. 4. Try to update order ID 4 into a name of null. Okay, let's check name. Try if it will return the true. Display the name. Now notice the null name is indeed null. Okay, next. SQL Server and MySQL, the null if function returns a null if expression 1 is equal to expression 2. If the expressions are not equal, then expression 1 is returned. The null if function has the following form: null if expression 1 or column 1, expression 2 or column 2. Let's say, for example, select names, wage, comma, new wage is equals to, if wage is equals to 0, we return null, okay, from employee. So let's try to use this for our table. The salary, okay, set the salary into null also. Okay, so let's try this one. So our salary will return 0, or our salary will return null if the salary is equals to 0. Okay, so I think we should have updated it to 0. Let's check. Okay, okay. So please watch out for your spaces and wrong indentation or aliases, okay, so that you can make your example work. In here, as I have said earlier, null if compares if the two statements are equal. If they are equal, it will return null. If they are not equal, it will return the value of the first value or the first column. Okay, so in this instance, it will return all the values of salary. Has null here, so it will return null. So what if we update it to 0? Date, table name, set salary equals to 0, where order ID is equals to 4. Okay, updated it. Okay, so it will return null if the salary is 0. So for my SQL, let's just see if it will work. Okay, same data because there's no salary, 0. Next is the top function used to display, or only for SQL Server, used to display or return from a result set the rows that fall at the top of a range specified by an order by clause. Suppose you want to display the names of the top two employees with the lowest wages from the employee table. Top two represents the result in the first two rows. So you would type select top two and then data from table order by what would be your um, limit or what would be your criteria. So order by ascending wages. So in here, select top two, name salary from table name, order by salary ascending. So top two with the lowest salary. Already returned two rows. Top two with the smallest salary, about top two with the biggest salary. Okay, salary. Sorry, top two with the smallest salary. And then top two with the biggest salary. Okay, sorry, top got confused. So top two with the lowest salary is ascending. And then top two with the highest salary. Okay, this is descending. Okay. So for SQL Server, there is no top option. So for MySQL, sorry, we do not have a top option, but it has a different way of getting the data. So for now, we will go with the top two with ties. So the with ties option can be used in order for us to get the data with ties or with the same value. Okay, so how do we use this? So you just use with ties. With ties. Okay, name, salary. Okay, so because there's no tie, same data. So let's try to make a tie. Let's comment the data. So we will set the same salary for the third record. Okay. So next is we check. We can get the top two with ties, names, and salary. So it's still the same. Let's try this one. So let's just get the top two with ties of salary, not including the name. Okay. So notice without including the name, we are getting the same value. Okay, we only have three records. So let's try to create a fourth record with a different name. then with the same salary of 2,200. Man, and the date, and salary 22. Okay, and let's try to execute this again. Remember, right now we have four records. So notice this is top two with ties. Okay, but we are returning three records. Why is this? The with ties gets all or counts all the ties as one record only. So this one is considered as one count, and this is another count. So if you select top two with ties, salary you get history data. However, if you will include the names, what will happen? Okay, you will also get the same data, but this time together with the name of the person. So our filter is the salary is descending, but we are getting top two with ties, the names, and the salary. Sorry, we are getting the top two with ties of the salary, and we are going to display the names and the salary. So if we are to use ascending, what will happen? Top two, okay, same ascending because we have two records with what? With 2,200.01. Okay. For SQL Server and MySQL, we also have what we call, sorry, this is just for SQL Server. For SQL Server, the percent returns a certain percentage of rows that fall at the top of the specified range. It's the same almost as that of top n. Okay, top n. However, we are using percentage. Select top n percent. For example, the following query returns top 10% by count of the student names from the table student based on the order of their names. Select top 10% S name from student order by S name ascending. Let's try to use it. Select top. We have four. Select top 10%. Okay, we already returned y one. Why is this? Remember, we have four records, so 100 divided by 4 is equivalent to 25%. So up until the 25%, we can only return 1. Okay, but anything greater than that is, let's see, will return the second record already. Okay, so to get the percentage, always remember 100 divided by your 100% divided by your number of records. Okay, so we have four, so we come up with 25%. The server, again, there is no bottom percent, so in order to get the bottom 10%, you would have to order this name column in descending order. So to get the bottom percent, you just change the ordering. So ascending is the top percent, and then bottom percent would be descending. Okay. So as I've told you earlier, SQL Server has the top function, but MySQL does not have that one. But it has a similar function called limit, which accepts two arguments. The first one is the offset. So the offset specifies the offset of the first row to return. The offset of the first row is 0, not 1. And then the count specifies the maximum number of rows to return. When you use limit with one argument, this argument will be used to specify the maximum number of rows to return from the beginning of the result. So the query above is equivalent to the following query with the limit clause that accepts two arguments. Select assist from table, limit 0, comma, count. How many? Using MySQL limit to get the first number of rows. So my select assist from table, limit n. For example, we want to only get the first 10 records, so you use limit 10. You could also use ascending and descending if you want to get the part that you want to limit. For example, order by credit limit descending, limit only get 5. Okay. So if you want to get the customers who have the lowest credit limit, use credit limit ascending. With the highest credit limit, you use credit limit descending. And then after that, you use the limit keyword. Okay. So this is our example. Let's try to run it before we go on with the other limit example. Select name salary from table name, order by salary ascending, limit. We have 6 records, so limit 3. For example, get the highest to the lowest salary. Lowest to the highest. Lowest to the highest. First 3. Then highest to the lowest. 3. Okay. Next. I've said earlier, limit can accept two parameters. The first, if you use only one parameter, you will the purpose of that one is the limit according to the number that you have entered in the limit uh, clause. Now, what will happen if you use the offset value? So in this example, our task is to get the highlight product, which is the second most expensive product in the product result set. In order to do this, you use limit clause to select one row from the second row as the following query. So when you are using limit with two parameters, remember that the first one is the starting record. So it always starts at 0. So the first record is at 0. And then the second number will be the number of record after the particular offset. So again, note that, for example, you have 3 records and you get a top 10%, it will return 1 because 1 to 33% of 3 will return 1. Whereas if you get 34%, so on and so forth, I think this one is for our example earlier. So anyway, I will use limit here. So limit, this returns 3 records because we use only 1. But what if we use limit offset starting 0 and then we return 2 records? Okay, so this here, so starting at the first record, we get 2 rows or 2 records starting from the first record. If we set this one as 1, notice We will start here at J, and then it will move to the next record after J. Okay, then 5. So that is how you would use limit with one value or with parameters. Take note with two parameters. Take note if it has two, the first one is the offset or the starting record. Then the next one is the count or the number of rows that you want to return. Okay, next. For SQL Server and MySQL, you can use the distinct function to return the unique data from our record. So, for example, if you want to select or return all the unique or distinct grade from table grade report, we will select distinct followed by the particular column that you want. So this works for MySQL Server and SQL Server. It can also be used with aggregate options like count, sum, and average. To count the distinct grades from grade report table, we can type select count distinct grade from grade report. So it will count all the unique grades. So let's check MySQL, select distinct salary from table. So this is all the distinct values for our salary. How about we count how many are distinct? So we have six. If some of the salary are the same, of course, this will lower down. So let's try to use it for SQL Server also. Also works. Conversion functions. The cast result can then be used for concatenating strings, joining columns, performing unions, mathematical operations. So we could also use this to convert a particular column into another column. Okay. So for example, select names, wage, hours is equals to cast, hours as. So hours is numeric. Convert it into a string so that we could concatenate it into a string. For MySQL, could do the same cast, but we do not have concatenation using plus, but we have the concat function. So concat function connects two or more string to one another. So let's try. Okay. Salary of Mel, J, Zoe, next month. So then we also try cast, but we do not have a concatenation function, but we can do is using plus concat. Okay, notice output. So we have string functions. For SQL Server, we have str. It's a conversion function that always converts from a number to a character data type. So it accepts float value expression, the length, and the number of decimal places. So for example, we have TRRs, so R's, which is the column, then character length 5, the number of decimal places is 2. Okay, so we have here the sample. So let's try to use it. And array basic to decimal place. Okay, that is the purpose of str, to convert your column, numeric column or numeric value into a string with the size and the number of decimal places. For MySQL, we have the format function, which is basically the same, accepts the particular column or value and together with the number of decimal places. Right? Now, format. Okay. We also have convert function. Convert function accepts the desired data type together with the length and the value or column. For MySQL, we also have convert, but it first accepts the value together with the data type. Or we could use convert and the value keyword using and then the particular data type that you want to use. So for example, convert to date. Okay. So select convert the value, comma, date. So you convert a string into date. Then convert to date time. So we have this string, then you convert it to date and time. Convert to time. Also have convert to character. So 125 is converted into char. Okay. So let's try to do this one. Convert salary to, okay, let's say char. Okay. All column salary from table name. Okay. For SQL Server, convert a thing. Try this one. Okay. Data type column. For MySQL, column data. Okay, so we have samples here that you could take a look if you want. We have examples here. Now let's go with the string functions. So suppose you want to concatenate strings or values or columns. For SQL Server, we use plus, as you have seen earlier. For MySQL, you use concat. Okay, so I will not go into that anymore. I have already showed you the example earlier. SQL has several string extractor function. We have substring. The substring returns part of a particular string. Okay. We also have left, right, L trim, R trim, and char index. So substring for SQL Server, define this one. Sorry. I think we also have support for MySQL. The substring, it accepts the value or column followed by the starting position. So starting index is 0 and then the length or the size. Let's start to use it for MySQL first. Or sorry, MSSQL. Need. Okay. Line. It will have an error if the size is greater than the particular data you are using. So sorry, the starting index is not 0 but 1. So as you see here, starting index is 1. And then how many characters? 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So let's try also for our MySQL. Okay. Okay, let's check. Okay, so I think there's an error from our actual compiler. In syntax, I just adjusted the space. So notice here, okay, use substring names reply to, then okay. So it's working almost the same or is the same as that of the SQL Server equivalent. We also have left and right. So the left function and the right function accepts two parameters, the value or column followed by the number of the characters you need to return from the left or from the right. So right, left from the name, return to, then turn right. Okay, left, right. Okay, okay. We also have the L trim and the R trim. So what this does is it accepts a value or a column and it removes all the spaces For example, in the L trim, it removes all the leading spaces from the left, and L trim removes all the leading spaces from the right. Okay. Okay. L trim and R trim. Okay. Okay. Next, for SQL Server, we have the char index function, which returns the starting position of a specified pattern or string. For example, if we wish to find the position of a space in the employee name, in the employee table, we could type select names, then char index, single quote, space, single quote, comma name. So it will return the index wherein we find the first instance of a space. So going back here, let's try to find, okay, this is my SQL, go back to SQL Server, char index, and find the first instance of character E from table name. Okay, so we have here second character, so Mel, M-E, so 1, 2. Okay, correct. J, it has no E, and then for the other records, and the third character. Okay, that is char index. MySQL. So MySQL does not have a char index, but it has an in string or instr function which returns the starting position of a specified pattern, just like char index. So the format is the column or the value, comma, and then the string or pattern that we need to find. Mhm. And string. Okay. Value. For MySQL, we also have the substring index. So it returns the substring from the given string before a specified number of occurrences of a delimiter. The substring returned from the left of the final delimiter when the specified number is a positive number, and from the right of the final delimiter when the specified number is a negative number. The specified number is greater than the number of occurrence of the delimiter. The return substring will be the total string. If the specified number is zero, nothing will be fetched from the given string. So for example, we have here select substring index minus page.info. You find delimiter of dot or period and then 2 count. So after that one, if a number is positive, the substring returned from the left to the final delimiter if it's a positive number. If it's a negative number, it will get the string after the particular delimiter. So in this instance, because the delimiter is period and then the number is positive, you return www.mytaskpage. If it is negative, what will happen? So let's try to check it this one. Okay. Positive will return to the left before the delimiter. If it is negative, will return the string. Okay, after the delimiter. Okay, so it's correct. Why? If it is positive, we'll return from the left side to the right. Sorry, from the right side to the last instance of the delimiter to the left. If it's negative number, it will return from the right up to the instance of the last delimiter to the left. So might as page that info. Okay. So again, if it's positive, it will check the last instance of our delimiter, which is period, and it will return all the string after the last delimiter. If it is negative, it will check the last instance of the delimiter to the left, and it will return all the string from the left to the right. Okay. Okay. Next is the upper and lower. This is for SQL Server only. Upper and lower returns the uppercase and the lowercase of your particular value. Whereas the length function returns the length of our string value or column. Let's go to here. So example is upper, lower, the length. Okay. For MySQL, we do not have len, but we have length. Okay. Okay. So this is our table of functions. All the topic that we have discussed. So for the set date format, you could try to find the samples on the internet on how to use a set date format. I prepared here samples for SQL Server and MySQL or the codes. Could try to execute this one. Just do not forget to place a semicolon if you are to execute this all, but it's better if you execute the samples according to the particular type. And you can see how it will play and also try to insert values to the table. Okay, so there you have it, our lecture with regards to system functions. But before we go, okay, we will also discuss about using case statement. Now, case statement is the same as that in programming. So basically, a case statement is a nested if-else statement. So how do you use a case statement? In order for you to use a case statement, you use the case followed by when, followed by the column that you want to compare, followed by the equal sign, followed by the value, that you are comparing. If that is true, use keyword then to output a particular result. Okay. And then for the default value, we have else. And then what will be the default value of our default statement, followed by end keyword for the case. Okay. So we have numerous examples here. So key statement works both for MySQL and SQL Server. Okay. So these are key statement. So again, be mindful of your spaces. Sometimes our online compiler did not work properly when it sees extra spaces. You can also use this one together with a number or value. Okay, we can also use this for numbers or numeric comparisons. As you can see here, take note earlier we do not have a comma. So do not forget that this is also a particular column or a separate column. So we need a comma. There, have it. And the syntax will also work for MS SQL or SQL Server. All right. Oh, okay. Okay. There you have it, guys. Our lecture for week 5. Thank you and God bless.